Yeah. See, I was worried about the.
Jay Harris.
This kid's over on the.
Yeah, just grab me a beauty shot, Andrew. Maybe in the red barn, start with a zoom.
Hey, very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Clinton Raceway near the shores of beautiful Lake Huron, Ontario. And there's a look at the iconic barn, part of the backdrop here of Clinton Raceway, one of the prettiest racetracks you'll see in the province of Ontario. And today we bring you the Kin Pace. What a great way to kick off our 2020 Facebook Live series. Hi again, everybody. I am Greg Blanchard alongside Mark McKelvey. We're nice and far apart here, adhering to our social distancing guidelines as we bring you coverage of the Kin Pace and good-looking undercard this afternoon as well. As mentioned, it's our kickoff to the 2020 Facebook Live series. I want to tell you what we have coming up for you this afternoon on the show. We've got the Kin Pace, and it is the richest event of the season here at Clinton Raceway. A purse of just shy of $65,000 up for grabs. A race that was instituted back in 2008. Clinton Raceway, always a huge supporter of the local community, and part of that support has been the Kinsman and Kinnett clubs of Clinton, and this race named in their honor. It has become the signature race here at the Clinton Oval. And it's a 3-year-old Ontario sired pacing fillies who will take center stage today in the main event. That comes up in race number 10, part of a 3-race package for you this afternoon. Again, Greg Blanchard, Mark McKelvey at the desk. And Mark, in terms of weather, we could not have asked for a better day. A beautiful day to kick things off here. It's unfortunate we don't have the live audience, but it's great that we can be here to provide this coverage.
Absolutely. That's the only thing really missing here today, and we're glad we're able to bring you that live coverage, as Greg mentioned. But here today in Clinton, it is just one of those hot summer Sundays, one that you dream about. And if the fans were here, that'd be the icing on top of the cake. But overall, the track is fast. We've seen some good miles here today already. We'll touch on that in a moment. But again, it is picture perfect. If you could draw a picture of a perfect afternoon for Ontario racing, this is exactly it. And we're looking forward to seeing that Kin Pace coming up in our main event.
So glad to have you on board with us today, wherever you're watching on our various social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're tuning in from today. Got any other comments or questions to pass along during the next hour and a half? We're happy to hear from you, and looking forward to a great a series of races here today. As mentioned, the main event is the Kin Pace. 2 races on the undercard, 2 Ontario Sire Stakes grassroots divisions for 3-year-old filly trotters. Jamie Mcdonald will be joining us here this afternoon as well. We'll catch up to her shortly. She's got coverage of things from not our paddock location as we typically would have. She's located halfway down the home stretch, just on the outside of the fence there, and we'll be talking to some of the competitors and a couple of features that we'll get to later on as well. Speaking of Jamie, good to catch up with her now, and we're under the overhang here, Jamie, so we're a little bit cool in the shade, but it's pretty hot out where you are.
It absolutely is a gorgeous day. You guys have that correct, and it is boiling hot out here, but that means the horses are on a roll. I got to speak to Doug Mcnair and Louis Philippois about their horses in the final of the Kin Pace, and the only thing missing from this atmosphere today and this gorgeous day is the racing fans. But I know you're joining us online to kick off our summer series of COSA-TV.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Look forward to catching up with you throughout the afternoon. A couple of features that we were able to put together earlier this week as well. We'll hear from young conditioner Kyle Bossens and a veteran horseman, Marcel Barrio. They both sent out big time contenders today. We'll learn a little bit more about them and their horses in today's Kin Pace final. Before that, though, let's show you how things unfolded a week ago in the eliminations, Mark. 3 eliminations, all very hotly contested.
Yeah, the eliminations, and we'll go to that in just a minute, but overall, some good matchups that we saw. 3 eliminations always makes things interesting in any event because it does increase that intensity to try and qualify for the final. We'll take a look at the final in just a second, but it will be a field of 8 to contest, and the post position draw made things very interesting considering who we saw prevail in last week's eliminations. You get a look at the field there on your screen. The 3 elimination winners from a week ago: number 4 Marzank Hanover, as well as number 7 Preeminence, and number 8 High Roller Duke. Of course, they go 7 wide here at Clinton. That means High Roller Duke, who has a tendency to be racing right at the front, is going to have to start from the second tier. Driver Doug Mcnair will have to navigate some traffic. I'm sure Jamie is going to talk to him about that a little later on in this afternoon's broadcast. But there's a look at your field for the $64,000 Kin Pace final. A very competitive contest, I think, and one that should have plenty of action from start to finish.
And I'm really looking forward to hearing from Louis Philippois, who takes over on number 2, Tugging on Credit, and Jamie caught up with him a little bit earlier. It'll be his first time sitting up behind this filly, who came in from the Rideau Carlton circuit and made an immediate impact last week in the elims.
Yeah, certainly did. A victory, or I should say, sorry, a narrow loss, almost a victory there. Came up just a head short. Tyler Moore was in the sulky last week, and he'll have a drive in this week's final, but Louis Philippois, one of the top drivers in Canada and in the entire sport, takes over now. Trainer change from Guy Gagnon to Danny Fontaine this week. We learn a little bit more from Louis Waugh later on when his chat with Jamie will air, and we'll hear a bit about what's gone on. And he does like this filly. She's one that I've got my eyes on. I don't want to tip my hand at who I'm going with in the final, but maybe it's already out there for everyone to see. But I'm looking forward to what we'll get from her, a good post position 2 starting spot. The one thing we talked about, and I know we're going to break down the race a little later on, but while we're at it, High Roller Duke has a lot of early speed, has to go from that second tier. If you're going to start from the second tier, you need a little bit of speed in front of you, and I think it does shape up well for her that she's got a few to her inside that should be able to fire out of there.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and we're going to try and get a look at the elimination replays from a week ago in just a few moments from now. Again, we had a look at the field page, and as mentioned on the undercard today, 2 Ontario Sire Stakes grassroots divisions for 3-year-old filly trotters. Marcel Barrio, who has one of the contenders, Preeminence in the Kin Pace, already with a winner, and Mark, already a track record performance as well in those grassroots divisions.
Yes, there was 1:59.2 was the time of the mile that we saw here earlier today. That erased a track record that was already set of 1:59.3 or coming into today. So we're seeing that speed. The 3-year-old trotting fillies, for the most part, have been on their best behavior going around the Clinton Oval here. Interesting that this is the first OSS grassroots leg for them, so they had to start here on the half-mile oval, which can be tricky for some, and I think for those of you that are going to be wagering along with these next couple races that we're going to bring to you, some that have some angles based on their past success on a half.
Absolutely. So again, if you are just joining us today, a gorgeous afternoon in Clinton, Ontario. Located about 15 minutes from Lake Huron, a beautiful part of the province, especially during the summer months. Lots of cottage country up around here. And as mentioned, Clinton Raceway, if you've never been here, one of the most scenic half-mile tracks anywhere in Canada, for that matter. And we're looking forward to getting to our main event just a little bit later. Right now, let's go to a commercial break, and then we'll be back with more on this first of our Facebook Live series of races for 2020 on COSA-TV.
horse. Download the app today.
And welcome back to live coverage here from Clinton Raceway. Greg Blanchard and Mark McKelvey. Glad to be joining you today for the Kin Pace. Oh, we've got a little technical issue here, Mark.
Yeah, Kin Pace coming up here this afternoon. That's going to be our featured dance. 10 races on the card. Sometimes things just don't go exactly as planned. Live TV, exactly. We'll put that there.
There we go.
But it's interesting. I was just thinking before we came back up, we heard Jamie talking about how hot it is here today. We're lucky. We are in the shade. There's actually a nice little bit of a breeze coming through right now. But these spots here in the grandstand, these would have been sought-after seats for this afternoon because you're out right on the rail. That sun is beating down. Track is certainly fast, and we're all mic'd up. We're ready to rock. And I think coming up here in a moment, we're going to get our chance to hear from our first driver, Louis-Philippe Waugh, and we'll have him mic'd up, and he's going to have lots to say, I'm sure, about tugging on credit.
Let's go to that now. We caught up with him earlier today. Jamie did, and he picks up that drive again for the first time, and it's today coming up in the Rich Kin Pace Final.
Louis-Philippe Waugh joins us now before our Kin Pace final. Louis, how was it getting the drive on tugging on credit? So you haven't driven this filly yet, so what are your expectations coming into this race?
Well, I never drove her, but I follow her a little bit because she's one of my friends, Guy Gagnon from Ottawa, that trains her. I've seen her race around Toronto here on the half-mile track last year at 2. And I think she's pretty in the other half-mile. She looks good. She went in 54 earlier in Rideau, which is, in my opinion, a pretty good mile. So she's for sure among the top contingent in this one. And from the 2-0, I couldn't really ask for better.
And how is it when you get a drive on a horse in a final that you've never driven before? What do you do to prepare for the race?
Well, I like if they really have like some things special that the trainer or like let you know. But Guy talked with me and he says like I said, she's Andy. She can do whatever you want. So I don't see it as being a big problem that I never sat behind her yet so far.
And what about a top competitor in this race?
Well, there's the one of Dougie that's got the 8-hole. I'm actually happy because of that. He might have a little bit of traffic. It's hard to tell how the race is going to unfold with a bunch of different drivers than were in here last week with those horses. But then on the rail too, the one of Scott Young. It's hard to tell. They look pretty all even on paper. So. Like I said, I'm confident with mine. I think that last week, if she get out a little bit earlier, she probably ends up winner. She looked very live down at the wire, so I think if I get her in the right spot, she's going to respond for me.
Well, thanks for joining us, and good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Louis.
All right, and thank you to Louis-Philippe Waugh. He sounds quietly confident in his charge today in the Kin Pace. But before that, we have got the Ontario Sire Stakes grassroots divisions, a couple of those to show you prior to getting into our Kin Pace coverage a little bit later on. And here is the field. We're going to meet them now for that first OSS grassroots division, a purse of $22,800. There's Scott Young. He'll be hopping up on board for the first time. Noblesse du Haras, a muscle mass filly, homebred from Haras de l'Estrade. Dene Gurial does the training, one-time winner of 2 starts this year.
Next up, we'll get a look at number 2, Bramasoli Hanover. Bob McClure, Luke Blade, Determination, the connections that teamed up to win last year's Hambletonian. Here they are connecting on a Cadabra filly, making her 4th start of the season, 6th of her career, looking to break her maiden and currently offering 5-2.
So we'll pick up some of these fillies here as they go through their final warm-ups just prior to post time. Good-looking field of 8. There's number 5. Shiloh Sealster. James Mcdonald will be on board. This daughter of royalty for life. $24,000 yearling purchase at 2 years ago at the London sale as a baby. And Clark Stacey co-owns with Jamie and Sonia Johnson and Crystal Johnson. Sean Stacey already a winner earlier this afternoon in grassroots action, and we'll look to add another victory for the stable here. The filly, though, hasn't hit the board yet in 4. And there's the one you talked about a little while ago, high-priced yearling, Mark.
Yeah, very high priced, and that's the way that these connections roll. Serge Godin's determination. They don't go to the yearling sales just to watch. They go there to take home some of the top bred horses, whether that's offered at the Lexington or the Harrisburg sale, and that's been their business approach. It's had success. Here's one that maybe just hasn't tapped into that potential. Last year they gave her a crack at the OSS Gold early in the campaign and just hasn't put it together. Maybe today could be that opportunity as we now shift our focus to number 8, Highland Foxy Trotter. This is one that I'm a fan of and is actually my top selection in this race. Currently 5-2. Amanda Fine, Sylvain Filion team up here. Amanda Fine will send out a starter later on in today's final for the Kin Pace, but Highland Foxy Trotter, 2 for 8 last season. She's one that they tried the Peaceful Way eliminations at one moment, so they had definitely some aspirations that she could be a Grand Circuit filly. This year, a good start under her belt. This is take 2, and I'm looking for big things.
Yeah, I would agree. Amanda Fine, a young Ontario trainer. It's got a nice stable of horses. A lot of them are homebreds, as mentioned, for Highland Thoroughbred Farm, and that one is sibling to a couple of regulars that we see at the Woodbine Entertainment Group circuit. Look there at 6, Rockadero. Rockadero is a daughter of Muscle Mass. The mother of this one, Early Secret, was an OSS champion, a winner of almost $700,000, and she's produced the very good Woodbine preferred trotter over the years, Winsong Géant, a career winner of about $660,000. So lots of pedigree potential for Rockadero. Carmen Auciello trains. Only 4 starts into the career, so I think there's still some upside for this filly.
Yeah, there's got to be, that's for sure. They shut her down after just 1 start last year, and now, as mentioned, she'll be making her 4th start of her career here today. We don't always see Carmen Auciello dealing with the younger horses. That's something that's developed as of late, and they'll look to break the maiden here in this 8th race. Next up, number 4, Ready to Deal. Dogfinn Henriksen trains and drives as this one moves into his barn after racing in Illinois to start this campaign, racing at Hawthorne. So I'm not quite sure what to expect from her here today. A change of scenery, currently offering 5-1, which is the half of the morning line price that she was listed at 10-1. She is winless in 2 starts this season, but is familiar with racing in Ontario, as this is where she was campaigned a year ago.
Driver Brett Mcdonald through the first 7 races today, already a couple of winners on the program, including one in grassroots action. We'll try and get it done from the far outside of the gate here with HP Starlet, this daughter of Muscle Mass, trained by Daniel Martin. 6 starts as a rookie, got to the winner's circle once, 2 starts back now into her 3-year-old campaign, most recently at Hanover Raceway. She came from off the pace and finished 3rd, and has finished 3rd in each of her first 2 starts this season. Post 7, a tough assignment here, and for those who aren't familiar with Clinton Raceway, they do score 7 wide, and post 8, in fact, is from the trailing tier in this spot. Getting a look at them now, just assembling into the backstretch, and we'll be ready for a start momentarily. Again, a beautiful little track, Mark. You see some residential properties there in the backstretch, so you literally could come out your front door and watch live harness racing. There's a community swimming pool on the first turn. You can be in the pool and have a beautiful vantage point as well. And we've had a few shots of that iconic red barn. Almost every photo you see of this raceway, you see the red barn up on the hill. And typically on a day like today, especially with weather like this, you would see that area lined with lawn chairs and people enjoying a day, maybe a cold beverage, and watching the racing. So a few folks taking in the action from up on the deck at the Red Barn, and we're almost set to go here with race 8. So we'll put you on the spot, Mark. Starting 8, getting set to move into position. Who's your pick in this 8th?
I am going with the 8 Highland Foxy Trotter, currently offering 2-1. 2nd tier start. Sylvain Filion, though, he'll be able to navigate, I believe, the winning trip. A little bit of speed in front of him that he'll have to choose from who he wants to follow, as you can see currently on the board. 3-1 on the rail starter, 7-2, and 5-2 then to the next door neighbors. So they'll be gunning out of there. I think Filion will be able to map it out here for this daughter of E.L. Titan for her first win of the season and to take this OSS grassroots event. But Greg, the one thing you mentioned, it's a little different here these days, and one thing that was awkward walking in was a silent building, but being able to hear the voice that we're about to go to.
Yeah, Frank Salive, the one and only, with the call.
It's Division 5 of the Ontario Sire Stakes. 3-year-old trotting fillies approaching a start. They're off and trotting. HP Starlet was gapped out and off stride before the gate got away. From the outside, Rockadero. From the inside, Noblesse Du It Ah. It's Rockadero off stride. And also off stride when trying a sharp gate rush and taken to the inside safety lane was Shiloh Sealster. And then off stride after inheriting the lead, Noblesse Du It Ah. So it's been a wild one early on here. Inheriting the lead briefly was Highland Foxy Trotter. That one gave it up to Need an Alibi, who's now going to sit second in behind Ready to Deal. Ready to Deal reaches the lead. Sitting second, Need an Alibi. Third at the inside after that adventurous early action was Brahmasol Hanover, and Highland Foxy Trotter is relented and sits under a stout hold in there from fourth. Then it's Noblesse Du It Ah from fifth. Rockadero after the early break. Shiloh Sealster is after the early break, and never in it, HP Starlet. Here comes the half for Dagfinn Henriksen and Ready to Deal. The next closest pursuer keeping good tabs is Need an Alibi. About 5 lengths back, Brahmasol Hanover will sit in there from third, and Highland Foxy Trotter is up and at it. Sylvain Filion moves this one to the outside in the front four, and they move onto the Clinton backstretch final time. Fifth on the inside is Noblesse Du It Ah. Rockadero after the early miscue is no better than 6. Shiloh Sealster seventh, and the distance trailer, HP Starlet. And pulling pocket, Need an Alibi. Need an Alibi has vacated the pocket. Still on a scant-looking lead, is Ready to Deal on that final turn. 3 wide for Highland Foxy Trotter there. Need an Alibi comes back on again. Ready to Deal. Need an Alibi tries to get by. Highland Foxy Trotter looks 3 wide, is back in third. Need an Alibi battling on and takes the late stretch lead. Farthest outside, Noblesse Du It Ah, a massive late sweep to win. Noblesse Du It Ah and Scott Young come from out of the clouds to catch Need an Alibi. Noblesse Du It Ah in the closing strides of the 8th.
And wow, that was an action-packed tilt in our first grassroots division this afternoon. Lots of action in the first turn, not of the variety that some of the connections would have been excited about, Mark, but when you get young trotters, that can happen. A bit of a mad scramble, few of them made breaks, but what a great finish here. And Scott Young, first start behind Noblesse Du It Ah, and they click with an impressive win.
Yeah, it takes over for trainer Denny Guriel, and as Frank Salive called it, comes from out of the cloud, sweeping by late for the victory. Second win in 3 starts for Noblesse Du It Ah. She's a daughter of Muscle Mass, and the big thing for a lot of these fillies was to avoid the mayhem that was going on through that first turn. Specifically, I had my eyes on my selection, Highland Foxy Trotter. I thought the inside speed would get out of there much better than it did. Everybody else from the outside opted to leave. They end up getting wiped out in the first turn, which was almost a blessing, I thought, for Highland Foxy Trotter. She just didn't have it. She was doing some big trotting in the third quarter to get a little closer. Instead, it was the one that was tracking her, Noblesse Du It Ah, that was going to have more speed than any late and comes on by for the victory. We'll pass along the time in just a moment for that 8th race, but I'd have to say for Scott Young, his first drive of the day, his only other drives in the Kin Pace, he's going to be feeling pretty good when we get to that main event and he teams up with rail starter Century Gianna.
All right, this is a homebred filly getting her second career win this afternoon. Not sure of what the win time was. We'll try and catch that for you. But hey, they don't put the win time on the check, and going to be a pretty nice check at that. $22,800 the purse. So the winner taking home half of that for Hara Delestrie of Dunham, Quebec. Denny Guriel, again the trainer, and Scott Young picking up the driving assignment and winning. A daughter of Muscle Mass. He was the number 5 stallion in the province last year in the OSS program. Sent out 18 winners in 2019 and winners of almost $750,000 in the provincial program, and off to a good start here in 2020 scores with this filly, Noblesse Du It Ah. Again, great stretch drive to win from just off the pace. We can tell you the inquiry sign is up. I would imagine, Mark, the AGCO officials just having a review of action in the first turn to make sure nothing was amiss with your top 3 or 4 finishers.
That's exactly what they will be looking at, and we'll be able to check that out in just a moment, exactly what was going on in that mad scramble around the first turn. It was Shiloh Sealster and Rockadero up at the lead, and they were going stride for stride when both of them went off stride. One to the safety lane, one taken to the outside, and a lot was going on. The officials will have to take a look just to see if there was any rules potentially violated. Here for Noblesse du Hurrah, potentially one of those races where being out of the way was a good thing, but we'll have to wait and see if there is a decision made, any sort of placings. However, the one Noblesse du Hurrah and their connections, they've got their photo taken, I'm sure feeling pretty confident heading back over to the paddock.
Yeah, and interesting, Mark, here's one that when you look back at her young history, especially last year in the province of Quebec, she made several breaks in stride, several miscues, so she had trouble staying on gate last year, and in fact made a miscue, was charted with a break at the beginning of her most recent race at Hanover, recovered, was way back at the quarter, and finished second. As we get a look at some of that slow-mo action going to the turn, there she was with that miscue. So really an amazing recovery here. One thing we can tell when you look back at the chart lines of this one and then watching the performance today, there's a world of ability there, and still some issues obviously to work with. If they can get her squared away, you're looking at a very talented filly that might be able to go beyond the grassroots.
Yeah, that's potential, and this is just the first grassroots leg of the season, so there's still plenty of time in the OSS campaign. Watching live, it was just the scramble and all the horses off stride. Missed it there, that it was Noblesse du Hurrah that did make that break. If the officials are looking to see if she interfered with any, I don't think she did. Did she lose ground? Absolutely, and this result should likely stand, but that definitely makes the result and the performance all that much more impressive when you consider what she had to do and what she had to overcome.
All right, well, let's take this moment while they're still sorting things out to take another commercial break. And when we come back, hopefully we'll have an official result from our first grassroots division.
The racing action in the first turn.
Freescratch.ca.
Here's the result
One
of
of our
the
partners
judges'
here
two
on our live
inquiries
coverage.
into the 8th race. First of all,
Let's
concerning the start and number 7, HP Star Led, was deemed to have received a fair start, was inside the fair start pole. Concerning the first quarter break by number 1, Noblesse du Hurrah, did make a break, but also did comply with all of the racing and braking rules, lost sufficient ground, did not impede the progress of any other rival horses, no changes. Noblesse du Hurrah will be declared the official winner of the 8th.
News for the connections of Noblesse du Hurrah. Mark, you saw it the same way, but you never know. They have an inquiry and they look at it. There was a lot happening in the first term, but good news for the connections. The filly gets rewarded for what was a tremendous recovery.
Noblesse du Hurrah, 870, 420, and 330.
Race number 8, first of 2 grassroots divisions that we have for you on our Facebook Live coverage today. Of course, leading up to the main event a little bit later on, $65,000 Kinpace final. There's a look at the prices. $870 the win ticket return. Your exactor, a good one, $48.20, 20-cent superfecta at a little over $85. So some nice returns there. Good luck and congratulations for those who were able to correctly tab the winners today. Hope you're watching and wagering today. Watching, of course, on the different feeds available, whether it's live streaming or the live coverage here today. And you can watch and wager through the Dark Horse app or, of course, through HPIBet.com. Main event coming up later this afternoon. It is the Kin Pace Final. Young Ontario trainer that's got a major contender is Kyle Bosson. Sends out Marzank Hanover in that Kin Pace later on this afternoon. Earlier this week, we caught up with Kyle at his Arthur farm.
Marzank Hanover tugging on credit is not getting up. Marzank Hanover appeared to get there just by a diminishing head.
Hi, my name's Kyle Bossens, and we have Marzank Hanover in the Kin Pace today. Yeah, we picked up Marzank Hanover after she was done her 2-year-old career, turned her out for a couple of months and started her back about mid-January. She raced a little later into the 2-year-old season because I think she started a little later. So she got a little extra time off and started training her back, I'd say mid-January, and just went from there. Had a little bit of a mishap when the COVID shut us down, but she's back and going good now. So my first expectations was she's got a lot of speed and she's got a lot of talent. She qualified great the first time there, and as I said, we got shut down right after that. So she kind of got trained down twice this year already, and the second time training down, she started getting on the line a little bit right before we were ready to race. So took a little bit of figuring out to get her sorted out. Took a start or two, but looks like we got her on the right track now. She's a very interesting filly in the barn. She likes a lot of attention, and if she's not getting it, she definitely lets you know. She'll kind of bang at the gate and paw until you come over and see her. She always kind of wants you to be paying attention to her and not anyone else in the barn. Other than that, she's a sweetheart in the barn. She's a real nice horse to train, nice to jog. You couldn't get much nicer than her. Being nominated for an O'Brien Award was a surprise, and it was a great honor to be nominated so young and so early in my career, I guess. We're located in Arthur, Ontario, and there's 22 here right now, so we've grown a fair bit in the last year. We started out with a couple claiming horses, and my goal always was to get into the stakes races. Hopefully, there's a few races on the bucket list you want to win. Kin Pace would be one of them for sure. Battle of Waterloo is another top one that I've grew up watching all my life back in Elmira, and then in Grand River, that's one race I rarely ever missed.
Welcome back to Clinton Raceway. There is the scene. Obviously, little to no wind today. Warm temperatures, sunny skies, and a fast oval. You're watching coverage of the Kin Pace and grassroots divisions on the undercard. A good chance to get to meet Kyle Bossens, one of the young up-and-coming conditioners in the province, Mark. Already a lot of accolades being thrown his way. And a win in the Kin Pace would certainly be a nice feather in his cap at this stage.
It would be. And again, he talked about the growth that he's seen from his stable in the last year and how the numbers have increased. Of course, now dealing, as he mentioned, with just over 20 horses in his barn. The percentage has been great. He's winning at a very high clip, and he's having a lot of success. But of course, at any moment when you need to stamp yourself as a major player, it helps to win a signature race. And if he can take that here at Clinton Raceway, he's definitely proving that he is becoming one of the top and dominant trainers on this type of circuit. And he'll be looking for big things from Marzank Hanover, who was a coast-to-coast winner. He didn't have her as a 2-year-old, and he talked a bit about the development for her. But you look at how she raced last year. She came out firing at the start of the year, tailed off a bit, finished the year all right. But here this season now, she has got her last couple starts have really looked real good. So big things coming for her. Colin Kelly will team up with her in the final.
All right, you're watching live coverage of COSA-TV. Thank you again to the Central Ontario Standardbred Association, COSA, for making this live coverage possible. We have a series of 12 race events throughout the summer and into the fall season, just announced this past week. Looking forward to all of those. And, of course, our coverage kicking off here today. Thank you to hoofbid.com, again, partnering with us once again for today's coverage. Send us a comment if you're watching today. We'd love to hear from you. We have a poll question, I believe, that we're going to get to in a moment. There's a quick look at the field for this upcoming 9th race, our second grassroots division of this afternoon's coverage. Here's our poll question for those who follow Clinton Raceway regularly. We want to know which one of these four do you think has the best chance to capture the Clinton driving title for 2020? And I'll give you four to choose from. Four fairly regular competitors here locally: Jay Harris, Nat Day, Austin Sorey, and Brett Mcdonald. I tell you, Brett already with a couple of winners today on the program. So some new faces emerging here as regulars at Clinton Raceway. And of those four, which one do you think has the best chance to capture Clinton driving title for 2020? Have your say as part of our coverage here this afternoon. Again, we'll give you a look at the field for the 9th in just a moment. Second grassroots division of the day. Some familiar combinations in here. When you think OSS and you think Trotters, Mark, you think John Bax and Steve Byron. They're a lethal combination, especially when it comes to grassroots divisions.
Yeah, they certainly are. And in this 9th race, they're going to team up once again with number 4, Golden Gavel, one making its second start of the campaign. A long shot on the board, but to your point, you can never write off that combination of Byron and Bax. How about Henry and McIntosh? They'll start from post 8. It's time to meet, though, the field for today's 9th as they make the march down the slope onto the track.
And a look at the odds board. The talk of the tote board is Hickman County, trained by Ben Bayerjean. Sylvain Filion will drive. Just 2 starts, unraced at age 2. Only 2 starts this season as a 3-year-old. Finished 8th, raced evenly in the debut. Big step up last time out when that one was an impressive winner. There's Profound Paragon leading off the parade. 3 for 6 this season for trainer Julie Walker, who co-owns. Bert Renault will do the driving.
Next up is number 2, Haven Sealster, 1 for 3 this season, 2 wins in the career for this daughter of Muscle Mass. Doug McCarthy, Keith Jones, Bob McClure, the connections.
The aforementioned Hickman County, daughter of Muscle Mass. We saw one of his offspring winning back in race 8. Hickman County win last time out at Woodbine.
Number 4 is Golden Gavel, Steve Byron and John Bax, as mentioned, teaming up here. Philly that is going to look for an improvement off of her debut start in the campaign where she was 5th at Georgian a week ago.
Royal Vista, number 5, was a $20,000 Lexington purchase as a yearling. A sibling to the almost $500,000 winner Dynamic Edge. Jonathan Drury will drive for trainer Carmen Osceola.
Mentioning those hot driver-trainer combos are the ones that have had plenty of success together. Louis-Philippe Waugh and Richard Moreau team up with Sheer Energy, a Muscle Mass filly. 0 for 2 this season. Last year, though, she did compete in the OSS Super Final, and she'll be looking to get a 3rd career win here today.
Far outside of the gate belongs to Emily Antoinette, a homebred daughter of Muscle Mass from the majestic Sunmare Juliet. Bill Meggins of Puslinch owns and trains. Preston Shaw will drive.
And number 8, More Magic, Trevor Henry for trainer Bob McIntosh, a Cadabra filly that in her season debut was a good 2nd. Last time out didn't go quite as planned. She'll look to bounce back, as we should say that's coming off of the break. She did not race at 2, so coming out of the break, she's made 2 starts since the racing was shut down and does have a 2nd place finish under her belt, 1 for 5 in her career.
There's a look at Hickman County, again, the talk of the tote board. And when you win, even if it's in an overnight event at Woodbine and come to the smaller tracks, you're going to get a lot of attention. But perhaps the equalizer is the switch from the larger oval to a half-miler and the inexperience under this one's belt. So it makes it hard to back the horse with a ton of confidence. You certainly feel that the ability is there, but you're never sure how they're going to handle the smaller oval.
That's certainly the case, and if anybody tuned into Grand River Raceway on Wednesday night, they had the 3-year-old Trotting Colt grassroots first leg. Several of those type of horses that were moving from the bigger oval to the smaller oval, and it was mixed results. The one thing that stands out, though, for those of you backing Hickman County currently, the heavy favorite at 3 to 5, is that Filion and Bayerjean. They've been absolutely red hot. They had success at Grand River the other night. They've been winning everything in sight here, and Hickman County will look to continue her rise, trying to make it 2 consecutive. But for me, I'm trying to go in a different direction. You want to get a little bit of a price, and I'm playing exactly what you're saying there, Greg, in that we just don't know how she will translate from the bigger track to the smaller oval.
Sheer Energy is interesting, Mark, the number 6 in the field. There's a look at her $187,000 yearling from the London sale 2 years ago. This one is sibling to Man of Many missions, the $1.2 million winner. The Mare, Armbro Vanquish, was a good one. She made well over $300,000 in her career racing at the time for Jimmy Takter. So tons of pedigree potential. I'm sure they expect it to be competing in the Gold Series events at this point in time in the 3-year-old season, but did make almost $90,000 last year in what I'm sure they thought was an okay 2-year-old campaign, but I'm sure they'd like to see her step up a little bit this year. Well, we have a moment, give you a final look at the scoring shots here. Earlier today, Jamie Mcdonald caught up with driver Doug Mcnair for his thoughts as we look ahead to that Kin Pace final in race number 10. While we have a moment, let's take you back to that interview and get some thoughts on Doug and his charge in that lucrative event.
Doug Mcnair joins us now, driver of High Roller Duke. Doug, how was it to get the drive last week and steer her to that win?
Yeah, she did everything right last week. She's good, really good gated. I watched the race up in Hanover. I was actually in that race, so I kind of knew what she was all about. So it was good to get the call on her. Just hopefully she can repeat tonight.
And this afternoon you have an outside post for the final. What are your thoughts on that starting position?
I think she got the 8-hole. Yeah, I think she's trailing, but I'd actually almost rather be on the gate really because she's still handy and good gated. But pretty sure she got the 8-hole, right?
She's got the 8-hole,
yeah. So I don't know. It's just you're gonna have to play it by ear, I guess. Obviously not gonna be able to race on the front end right off the bat.
And when you're scouting out the race, looking at the program, who is your biggest competition in your opinion?
Oh, there's a couple that looked pretty nice last week here, but I'm pretty confident I get the best horse. I just got to work out the best trip, that's all.
Thanks for joining us and good luck.
No problem.
Okay.
Doug Mcnair sounded confident in his charge, High Roller Duke, in that Kin Pace. But you mentioned it earlier, Mark is going to have to navigate what is a trailing position here and one that likes to be on or near the front end. So I think from a fan and a wagering perspective makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it did. An open draw following the eliminations, and anything can happen in that draw, and that's exactly the results that we got. Looking forward to what that Kin Pace has for us. But it's funny when you compare the two interviews that we heard. Louis-Philippe Roy, lots to say about tugging on credit, and he noted that he liked the High Roller Duke is in the second tier. So a little bit of pressure on Doug Mcnair, but if anyone's going to do it, it's Canada's leading driver.
All right, starting gate is rolling for race 9, our second OSS Grassroots division, as you're watching live coverage today on the Facebook platform on COSA-TV. One of the legendary race callers in Canada, Frank Salive's calling the action today, and he's standing by for race number 9.
Sixth and final division of the Ontario Sire Stakes at Clinton Raceway. It's post time. Ninth race, the Ontario Sire Stakes 3-year-old filly trotters. Here they come. And they're off and trotting. Haven Sealster looks for the best start. So does Emily Antoinette, sweeping up powerfully from out in post 7. Profound Paragon gets away in there from third, and Emily Antoinette has made a break. So it's Profound Paragon that's going to inherit pocket trip position. More Magic. She was able to follow up into third. Hickman County, there's the heavy favorite, relaxing off the early leaders and away cleanly into fourth. 2 more lengths back to Sheer Energy in the front 5 ahead of Golden Gavel. Royal Vista is 7th. Reset after a break, Emily Antoinette. On to the turn they will go with Profound Paragon, setting the tempo and in command of this front-end tempo here. Stealing a second quarter, it appears. Haven Sealster right there second. And here comes Trevor Henry out of third. More Magic makes an early sacrifice, swinging off the turn to approach the half. It's 2 more lengths to Hickman County. She's not yet gaining, but is in the front 4. Now it's Sheer Energy up into the front 5 ahead of Golden Gavel and Royal Vista, and the distance trailer, Emily Antoinette. Profound Paragon trying to step it up here in the third quarter. More Magic has moved first over. It's been the pocket view all the way for Bob McClure and Haven Sealster. Sylvain Filion still sitting with a full hand, it appears, but Hickman County may have to be pulling the trigger 3 wide pretty soon. Hickman County 3 wide, and there she goes for liftoff as Sylvain raised the whip over her tail there, and she responds and gets up into second. Sheer Energy is brushing up 3 wide out of the backfield. Golden Gavel is 3 wide. And the gapped-off distance trailers on the final turn are Royal Vista and Emily Antoinette. Top of the stretch for Profound Paragon. Hickman County after a 3-wide brush. Profound Paragon is still going. J.B. Reno with his hand in the handholds wins it under wraps with Profound Paragon upsetting Hickman County. Sheer Energy was third and Golden Galville salvaged fourth for Profound Paragon in the 9th.
A very impressive win for Profound Paragon. And another win for Sire Muscle Mass coming right back here. Scored in the 8th with Rockadero, and the filly Profound Paragon getting it done here for co-owners Julie Walker and Stephen Titus. Julie training and Bert Renaud doing the driving. And now 4 for 7 on the season. And Frank Salive alluded to it. Bert sitting pretty much motionless in the bike. Knew what he had in the tank, and this filly, no mistakes today, and a dominant win.
Just felt like going up the backstretch when Hickman County was making that 3-wide bid that she was going to have to really impress us if she was going to touch Profound Paragon, who was looking very comfortable on the lead, well rated there on the front, and goes on to the victory, going off at odds of 3-1. So she was getting a bit of support, ended up going off as the 3rd choice, and does prevail, as you mentioned, for the 4th time this season. And that's 2 in a row for Profound Paragon, taking this final division of the OSS Grassroots here today.
Again, we'll try and get the time here. We can tell you there was a track record set earlier this afternoon in these grassroots split. The trotting filly, Mohana, another sired by Muscle Mass, was the winner back in race 4.
The quarter times
for trainer
review,
Sean Stacy and James Mcdonald.
30 seconds, 59 and 4, 129 and 3, Profound Paragon, 159 flat.
And there
that's 30 seconds.
Is
59
in fact,
and 4.
A new track record that lowers the track record that had already been established earlier today. So, thank you to Frank Salive for providing that information to us. We were just mentioning that Moana had set a track record earlier on the day, 159 and 2. That lowered the previous standard by 1/5 of a second, and they shave another 2/5 off here. Profound Paragon. And Mark, looked like she could have went more if she needed to.
Yeah, as we mentioned, Bert Renaud was not moving in the sulky there, motionless for the 59-mile, which matches her career best set in her last start. That was over Georgian Downs. So a very strong performance here today from Profound Paragon to wrap up the OSS action.
And what a afternoon it has been for Sire Muscle Mass. No less than 4 winners today sent out by that stallion, and a couple of track record lowering performances. Here's a look at the winner making her way back. As mentioned, Julie Walker owns and trains. Julie from a great trotting family. The Walkers have had tremendous success over the years, especially in the Ontario Sire Stakes program. They've got a good one on their hands here, winning today in the grassroots. I suspect this is one that could step up to the next level if they so choose. And I would think would warrant certainly consideration for that based on a track record performance here this afternoon as we get a look at the blanket presentation being made. So that is going to wrap up our OSS activity for today as we get ready to turn our attention next to the Kin Pace Final, which is just a few moments away, chasing a purse of almost $65,000 this afternoon. Jess Carnahan doing double duty today, taking some photographs. She, of course, the marketing guru here at Clinton Raceway. Used to dealing with a large live crowd. They're known for the big on-track attendance here at Clinton. Again, we're not able to have a live audience here today, so wonderful that we're able to bring this coverage to you via COSA-TV. And there's a look at the winner heading back to the paddock. I believe we've got the prices from that 9th race, so a mild upset here, Mark.
Going off at 3-1 was Profound Paragon, returning $840, $270, $250. That $2 exacta with Hickman County, the favorite, coming in the runner-up spot, pays $22 even. You get a look at the Tri and Super payouts here, as the ones we really focused in on were Hickman County and Sheer Energy. They've got to take the minor share here today because Profound Paragon was large and in charge to set a track record and take the final division of the OSS.
Kin Pace Final coming up next, our main event this afternoon from Clinton Raceway. There were 3 eliminations a week ago. We heard from the connections of one of those in Marzank, Hanover earlier. Time now to meet the trainer behind Preeminence, who was an elimination winner from a week ago, veteran maritime horseman Marcel Barrio. We caught up with him earlier this week.
Preeminence is almost there. Preeminence and Bob McClure win the first Kin Pace elimination.
Hi, I'm Marcel Barrio. We're at Richard Morrow's Training Center, where I'm located, and I got 3-year-old pacing filly Preeminence in Kin Pace for this afternoon. Well, most proud of probably my background when I was in the Maritimes, winning as everybody else, Gold Cup and Saucer and the Alexander Memorial, all the top races around the Maritimes before I went on to Montreal, and there's quite a few races that I'm really proud of. Well, the ownership group spent the winter in Florida, so a few years back I decided to go spend the winters, and they contacted me and see if I'd be interested in taking a filly for them. So we ended up going to the sale at London, and we purchased Preeminence, and she started. She had a decent career like as a 2-year-old, and now we're looking for big things as a 3-year-old. Made a few little changes. I was talking to Bob McClure, the driver, and he suggested a few little things, so we worked on that, and we hope we get her the right way, because we know if she behaves that she's a real good contender. I had a fairly big stable in the Maritimes and decent horses, and in the winter times you couldn't race the better horses, so my good friend Mike Mcdonald was after me. He said, come on down to Montreal. So I start over there. He said, you'll like it, especially for the winter, and try it, and if you do all right. So, which I did, and I had a real good winter meet, and so I had to go back the second year, and that's how I ended up in Montreal. Preeminence is a very calm filly in the barn, and everybody, as a matter of fact, they called her girlfriend, because she's such a lovable thing. Like she always lean on you, and no dirt to her or nothing. She's just a sweetheart.
Veteran Marcel Barrio sending out Preeminence. Not happy with the post draw, I'm sure, but who knows? It's just a starting spot, and we'll see. But Marcel, a veteran, as mentioned, started his career in Atlantic, Canada. I can tell you, as a young guy growing up in the Maritimes, he was one of the elite horsemen there, and not surprised to see him having success here in Ontario. And yeah, great guy. He's known as Pops to all his friends and colleagues in the industry, and we'll wish him luck here, Mark. You've had a chance to assess the field and the eliminations. We've heard with some of the connections here. Look at a pretty good-looking odds board right now. Surprised that Tugging on Credit would be the favorite at this point in time?
I'm not surprised. I think a lot of people are playing that angle. A lot of people will be playing that angle on number 2, Tugging on Credit, who gets Louis-Philippe Roy in the sulky here today. One that was just missed in the elimination, raced very well, and she shows some great speed at Rideau Carleton. And I think Roy is pretty confident, as we heard in his comments, that a lot of that translates here. He thinks that he can probably map out the trip for her. And sometimes it feels in a lot of races like this where you have eliminations the week before, the horse players, they don't want to take the obvious. They don't want to jump on the bandwagon of the elimination winners. And of course, with the way they all drew, I think this set up for those inside starters to take a lot of the action. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Century Gianna, also a runner-up from last week's elimination, starting from the rail, currently offering 7-2.
And tugging on credit, proving that, you don't have to spend $100,000 plus at a yearling sale to get a good racehorse. This one, a $5,000 yearling purchase. The mare, Casimir Hugs, she's a Sir Luck mare. Not one of those commercially well-known stallions, but she has been a very good producer so far. Already Casimir Richie P., who's been a regular preferred competitor on the Woodbine Entertainment Group circuit. He's a sub-150 winner. He's got $300,000 on his card. And this filly looks to be following in similar footsteps.
Yes, she does. And this is a race the Kin Pace in the past that has traditionally seen horses win and also move on to success at the gold level. So it'll be interesting to see what could be next for tugging on credit.
All right, we're going to meet the field in a moment. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll have the post-parade of the Kin Pace coming up on the other side.
Enjoy the thrill of the race anywhere, anytime with HPIBet.com. Join for free and use your smartphone, tablet, or PC to watch and wager when you can't be at the track. Stream live racing from over 450 tracks. Bet with ease from anywhere. It's safe and secure. Get rewards, race alerts, tips, and more. For a limited time, get $100 when you become a member. Plus, 1 month free live race streaming, and your first bet is on us. Go to HPIBet.com to join for free today.
Welcome back. Getting set for the Kin Pace, $64,700 purse. And we have the post parade coming up. Excellent field of 8 3-year-old filly pacers will be squaring off. There's Scott Young, a grassroots victory under his belt earlier today. Teams up with Father Bob Young, who trains Century Gianna, the Bettor's Delight filly. 4 starts this year, coming off a second-place finish last week in the Olymps.
Number 2, tugging on credit. We've touched on her already. The Up the Credit filly looking for her second win of the campaign, 6th overall. Moves into the barn of Danny Fontaine this week from Guy Gagnon, who shares ownership. Louis-Philippe Roy in the sulky.
Watch My Speed 3. He's watching filly, sibling to a pair of $500,000 winners. Craig Bars trains, Jody Jameson driving.
Elimination winner Marzang Hanover is looking to make it 2 consecutive victories and sweeps the Kin Pace. For owner Daryl Newbigging, trainer Kyle Boston's Colin Kelly drives this 3-time winner.
There's a look at the 4. We heard from Kyle earlier today and got to see the filly at home, and we see her on track and makes a good pre-race appearance. There's Fast and Relentless, a shadow play filly. Seconded her limb a week ago. Alan and Elizabeth Fair team up with this one. Tyler Moore is in the driver's seat.
Number 6 is Highland Salsa. Jay Harris will drive this Amanda Fine trainee. 0 for 3 on the campaign, 1 for 14 overall, but this is one that's been knocking on the door many times. She's got 3 runner-up finishes, along with 3 third-place finishes in her campaign.
The aforementioned Preeminence, Bob McClure back on board. They teamed up for a win in the elimination a week ago. Sports writer filly from the mare Lady DM, and this one a sibling to a pair of $300,000 plus winners.
And to complete the field from the second tier, the 8 is High Roller Duke, racing for Glenview Livestock. This is a Bettor's Delight filly that's won 3 in a row. She's 3 for 4 this season after a pretty solid rookie campaign. She is looking to catapult herself to the winner's circle from that second tier. Doug Mcnair will have to figure it out for trainer Lacey McCabe.
That's a look at the field. We'll get a look at them scoring out. And sometimes you can find something here, Mark, especially on a half-mile track. You watch them score into that first turn, and you can tell sometimes if they're handling it really well or others are struggling a little bit, and it might tip you off as to what could happen in the race. And speaking of that, one thing about a half-mile track is you can try to trip handicap much more so than on a larger track. How do you see the race unfolding?
Well, I would expect we will see some speed from the inside, and there's a look at Century Gianna. She's one that got the 2-hole trip a week ago. Starts from the rail, and I think Scott Young will have to get her out of there as best as he can, knowing too though that Tugging on Credit and Louis-Philippe Roy will likely be trying to blast to control this race from the front end, knowing full well though that we're going to see likely some speed from the outside. I don't think this shapes up that bad for Preeminence and Doug Mcnair. As long as they can be patient here in the early going, we could have a bit of a scramble that will set things up for somebody from off the pace.
There's a look at the 2, Tugging on Credit, still holding as the bettor's choice at 8 to 5. Louis Philippois on board for the first time this afternoon, and probably wanted to learn a little bit about the filly. He scored her out just a moment ago, and we had a good look at it on screen, and she seemed to be great going through that first turn. Again, she won 4 of her 8 trips posted last year, hasn't been worse than second in 3 this year, and there's a look at her going through what appears to be just a minor equipment adjustment. So, well, she's getting tended to just off track here at Clinton Raceway. We'll take a look at some of the others. There's Marzank Hanover, one of the 3 elimination winners from a week ago. Went to the front, needed the wire though, it looked like. One horse was gaining late, and that was tugging on credit. So 2 ways to look at that. Diminishing margin of victory, but the fact she held off one that is the favorite at this point in time this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know if that front end tactic, if we're going to have to work so hard to get it this week, maybe switching things up might benefit her if she can get tripped out by driver Colin Kelly.
What about the odds? 18-1. It's almost like it's a typo. If she's 18-1, I think vastly underrated in this spot.
Definitely is, and that is pretty tempting for a horse player not to try and take a stab with her in this spot.
All right, we've got to try and find somebody other than the obvious. Tugging on credit, getting a lot of play. Marzank Hanover, I thought was good last week, and I think just an inflated price here this afternoon for whatever reason. High Roller Duke now starting to get some late play at 3-2. One thing about it, she's not going to be the first leader today, and she can handle the fresh air though. You see 3 back parked every step of the way at Georgian Downs, and was a game winner that afternoon.
Yeah, and you're just trying to find things that maybe stick out that for somebody that could be able to come through in this spot. Looking at a couple numbers to pass along to those of you very interested in the stats. Post position 7, of course, is the worst post position here at Clinton Raceway. It had no winners on the season through the opening weeks. That changed here earlier today. We have seen a winner get it done from that outside spot. Preeminent sitting at 9-2. If she didn't have post position 7, you could probably expect a lower price on her, but you could say that about anyone based on where they could land.
Exactly. You need to be good enough. Then you need a little bit of luck, I think, in the trip department, frankly. It looks like she will be racing from off the pace. She typically does. I don't see anything to indicate that'll change today. If it does, it will be a surprise. But yeah, it's a really intriguing betting board here late, Mark. Put your betting hat on right now, and I'm sure some surprises on the tote board. How would you adjust your the way you played this race based on the current odds?
Well, going into this race, I was on the 2 tugging on credit. I was hoping to get a little bit of a better price. She was 6-1 on the morning line. I was thinking she'd land maybe around just a little bit shorter than that, but she's been taking plenty of attention. I still think she's the one that's going to come away with the victory here. But if I'm trying to find somebody with a little bit of a price that's going to come through and grab a potential piece, I'll look for Watch My Speed and Jody Jamieson, one that could probably sit back and let things set up well for her just to get a piece at the end of that mile. She has closed out some miles decently in the past, and Jody Jamieson did sit behind her last week, so take 2. He knows her a little better.
All right, you know what? I'm going to put a vote of confidence behind Marzank Hanover. Whether she wins it or not, we will find out here momentarily. But at 25-1, it would certainly be worth a toonie on her. That's quite a price on a filly that was a good elimination winner a week ago. Maybe not winning it in dominant fashion, and whether that's why people are going away from her this week. It's interesting to say the least. So we're getting set to go here with the Kin Pace. There's been some impressive winners of this event over the years. Trainer Jack Darling won it with his good filly last year. Mark Horner's top filly, the Joy Luck Club, was a winner a couple of years back. So it'll be interesting. In terms of time here this afternoon, Mark, with the perfect weather conditions, what kind of a mile do you think we're going to see?
Well, the miles didn't jump off the page last week in the eliminations, but it's a whole different beast when you do get to the final. I'll look for something in the 155 range. I think these fillies are going to be ready to rock, and as you mentioned, it is a very warm day. The flags aren't moving, and could shape up to see a pretty big mile here.
We are getting set to go. It is the $64,700 final of the Kin Pace. Starting gate moving into position. Brad Pittock, the starter here
at the Central
will be
Oval.
collecting the field of 8, an excellent field of 8 to contest this year's final. And once again, it's Frank Salieve standing by with the race call.
For the Kin Pace Championship Final. Century Gianna, Tugging on Credit, then Watch My Speed. Marzan K. Hanover, Fast and Relentless, with Highland Salsa in preeminence, and High Roller Duke in the 8-post. It's post time for the Kin Pace Championship. The 2020 final of the Kin Pace from Clinton Raceway. They're off and pacing, a bobble before the start for Marzan K. Hanover. Preeminence is off stride, leaving out of there. Tugging on Credit has gone to the lead, and Century Gianna will be able to follow away into second, and High Roller Duke has had a good enough start to follow into third. Watch My Speed settled out in fourth by Jody Jameson. It's 2 more lengths to Fast and Relentless off the pace from fifth. Highland Salsa just 6 best away. Preeminence reset quickly from 7th, and so is Marzan K. Hanover, the trailer. The opening quarter, though, it's Tugging on Credit, and Louis-Philippe Bois rationing out her second quarter speed. Century Gianna getting a great trip. When will Doug Mcnair move? He's leaned way back in the bike there. High Roller Duke sits third as they come off the turn. Watch My Speed is fourth and coming out, and so is High Roller Duke right now. Up and moving, first over out of third. Fast and Relentless spots up third over. She's on the flank of preeminence. Second to last, Highland Salsa, and the trailer, Marzan K. Hanover. High Roller Duke has got to try to reach Tugging on Credit from first over, and Century Gianna has enjoyed the pocket trip. They're in the backstretch. Final time of the 2020 Kin Pace. High Roller Duke Mcnair raised the whip in the air there to keep her going. Still going on the lead, Tugging on Credit. In the pocket, Century Gianna. Watch My Speed stalled second over from fourth. Preeminence made it back into the front 5. Ahead of Fast and Relentless, Highland Salsa. Marzan K. Hanover has never been in it. High Roller Duke. The earplugs out now by Mcnair. Coming to the top of the stretch. Watch My Speed. Flipping out off cover. They're all chasing, Tugging on Credit. Century Gianna to the inside and sweeping past them. Watch My Speed. Watch My Speed, and Jody Jameson will win it. Century Gianna saves second, Preeminence third. Fast and Relentless was fourth, and Hooking Wheels were Tugging on Credit, and High Roller Duke. Watch My Speed, the unofficial winner of the 2020 Kin Pace.
Well, an action-packed final of this year's Kin Pace for a variety of reasons as the field turned for home. You could tell things were getting contentious. I think we could tell that Watch My Speed was going to win it no matter what happened. But I think with Tugging on Credit and High Roller Duke hooking wheels there at the top of the stretch, then the result was never really in doubt from that point on. So unfortunate, and I'm not ultimately sure how that was going to impact things, but it's a shame to see that happening at such a critical point in the race. Century Gianna salvages second, raced well. And what about the recovery from Preeminence? Bob, I think just tried to leave a little bit with her, change of tactics. She jumped it off briefly, but came back on to be third.
It's tough to try and fire from that far outside post. Some are going to react better than others. She didn't like it at the start, but she does end up getting a good share of the purse. But things definitely a little wild coming off that last turn. But to your point, Watch My Speed was in the spot. She looked like she had the most pace and looked like she'd be a sure winner. But let's take a look exactly what happened. We talked about Tugging on Credit and High Roller Duke. They hook wheels. Good news for the inside Century Gianna and Watch My Speed that they're able to avoid that no problem. And coming through the lane, it's Watch My Speed to take the victory. Tugging on Credit and High Roller Duke, neither of them actually will end up finishing the mile as the drivers had to come to a complete stop and get off the bikes in order to unhook the sulkies. But there's a great look at Watch My Speed that he's watching Philly capturing the Kin Pace.
And he's watching, we've seen his offspring quite prominent in recent weeks in qualifying action. Number of 2-year-olds have looked good. Some of his older performers now starting to get their due as well. This filly with a big win, her richest payday so far. We mentioned she's a sibling to a couple of good ones. Ideal Jet, a winner of $500,000 lifetime, and the $800,000 winner, Stolen Car. So there's pedigree potential with this filly. Good pick, Mark. You talked about trying to find what you thought the value was based on the odds just before post time, and it was indeed Watch My Speed. Jody Jameson, he's got a knack when the money's on the line in these types of races. Had the filly perfectly spotted turning for home. And yeah, I think those two fillies hooking wheels, it certainly hurt them in the end in getting a good piece of the money, but I don't think it was going to change the win result. Watch My Speed looked live and loaded turning for home.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It really looked that way as Watch My Speed was coming around that far turn, and she looked ready to just pounce on them. No surprise that Louis Waugh rolled tugging on credit. That was the approach I was expecting. I thought she'd have a little more in the tank in order to secure a victory on the front end, but she gets challenged by High Roller Duke, and nice job by Jody Jamieson just to have his charge in the right spot to win the Kin Pace. Now, of course, there is an inquiry into that top of the stretch where we saw the two horses hook wheels. I don't think it'll have any impact, of course, though, on the winner in this spot.
There's a look at the connections making their way back with Watch My Speed. 156-2 was the win time, so that's a nice effort for this one. In fact, a lifetime record for the filly. Career start number 11 and her third win. There's another look at it turning for home, and yeah, it just looks like the 2 and the 8 unfortunately get hooked up. They were in tight quarters turning for home, and as you said, it's unfortunate for them, no question. But good that the ones in behind ultimately were able to get around it with clearance and not affect their outcome.
Right, and the one thing you notice there on the replay is that Century Gianna had to go down into the safety lane partially to avoid those two horses. So she is technically going to be inside a few pylons there. In this situation, though, it was to avoid a potential mishap, and I don't think that we will see anything requiring a placing. However, that's up to the judges to go through the rule book just to make sure that they come up with the correct call here. She is the unofficial second place finisher. Well, Watch My Speed at 12-1 should be all clear to take the winner's share of this purse of $64,700.
All right, still some work to do in sorting out the result of this Kin Pace final. So we'll get back to that in a moment. While that's happening, we'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back. A look at the Red Barn up high atop that far turn at Clinton Raceway. Just awaiting the official results of this year's Kin Pace, still under inquiry. While we have a moment, let's give you a look at some of the upcoming events here on COSA-TV. Announced earlier this week a full 12-race schedule covering some of the major event race days throughout the province of Ontario all summer long and into the fall season. The Battle of Waterloo will be the next stop on the long weekend, Monday, August 3rd at Grand River Raceway in Elora, Ontario. We'll be heading up the highway to Rideau Carleton in Ottawa, Ontario for this year's edition of the Des Smith, combined with remote coverage of the Earl Rowe Memorial Trot the same night from Georgian Downs in Barrie. That's on August 16th. A week later, August 22nd, we'll be heading to Hanover Raceway for this year's edition of the Balanced Image Trot. And then at Mohawk Park on September the 5th, a power-packed program that night. Best older pacers in the sport in the Canadian Pacing Derby. Top older trotters in the Maple Leaf Trot. Some of the races coming up on our coverage of COSA-TV. You can visit our website for a look at the complete 12-race event lineup all summer long. Glad to have you tuning in today. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage so far. Again, still under an inquiry here. We'll get you back to a look at the official results and the prices here in just a moment. Let's talk about He's Watching. We're focusing on stallions a lot. We've been covering baby races in recent weeks from Mohawk Park, and you know, the old faithfuls like Butter's Delight, Sports Writer, have been quite prominent. He's Watching, though. We've seen some really nice things from his offspring. We're starting to see that high speed that he possessed getting passed on to his youngsters.
Was there high speed last night? Did we see some of that in those 3-year-old
absolutely.
pacing colts? Yeah, it's funny how you can watch those traits pass on from the sire down throughout. But he's watching, again, one of those horses, one of those stallions, I should say, in Ontario that it's just going to take a little bit of time. That's the way it seems to work here. You don't go to the top right away in this province, but if you can turn out some nice results, and we're starting to really see that, then that becomes the hot stallion, you could say. Look at Big Jim as of late. Had a nice winner in the 2-year-old Pacing Colt Gold on Friday night at Mohawk Park. Shadow Play has won the other divisions. So I really think it's showing the depth of the stallion roster here in Ontario, and it's been shining through in the early stages of the OSS season.
Yeah, we again want to thank the Central Ontario Standardbred Association for making this coverage possible. In recent weeks, we talked about it. We've been covering the baby races, the 2-year-old qualifiers at Mohawk Park for 3 consecutive weeks. So it was a lot of fun to follow them, follow their progression, and see them over the 2 or 3 weeks in preparation for their parimutuel debuts, and then see them in action for that first start, and how some of them went ahead and some of them maybe stalled a little bit off that qualifier.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It was a lot of fun. I always enjoy that first weekend of sire stake action for the 2-year-olds when we finally do get to see them. It'll continue tomorrow night at Mohawk Park with OSS grassroots action. So for those of you that tuned in, you'll be very familiar with some of those names.
All right, so if you were playing along from home today and you had the 3-1-7 combination, I'm sure you were waiting anxiously for these prices and some very generous returns. Watch My Speed, an upset winner, pays $27.60. Century Gianna and Preeminence able to get around that late trouble, finished 2nd and 3rd respectively. Great recovery from Preeminence, and Fast and Relentless gets a nice paycheck here as well. Finishes in 4th position. Your exactor pays $122.30. 20-cent try at almost $100. 20-cent super just shy of $250. And note, there were no winning combinations sold, so it's going to pay out on the 3, 1, 7, and all combination. So Watch My Speed, Mark. You liked him late. He was your late pick. Did you have time to get a wager in?
Well, didn't come through with what I needed. I thought Tugging on Credit was going to be the best and would go all the way on the front. Was looking for Jody Jameson, Watch My Speed to get a piece. I just didn't know they were going to get the whole pie, and that's exactly what they got. A great performance. And let's hope potentially no more hooking wheels, but let's hope that a nice price like that really sets the tone for our COSA-TV series throughout the summer, and we'll get to see some real thrilling races throughout our great province.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to see all the, the braking action, the hooking of wheels and that type of thing. It's unfortunate for the connections. They put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the preparation for these races, so you want to see everything go smoothly. But having said that, it's nice to see that it's not just a kind of a foregone conclusion, predictable result. We knew it could be a wide open final, and it certainly was. So we want to thank you again for joining us here today. It's been a pleasure to be with you alongside Mark McKelvey, Jamie Mcdonald, covering things off from trackside as well. Let's give you another quick look at those upcoming events before we sign off today. And don't forget, our next COSA-TV live presentation will be Monday, August 3rd, with this year's Battle of Waterloo from Grand River. The Des Smith Earl Rowe Combo Show follows that on August 16th. Back on August 22nd with a balanced image from Hanover Raceway, and then kick off the month of September in style at Mohawk Park with coverage of the Canadian Pacing Derby and the Maple Leaf Trot. So it is Watch My Speed with an upset win in this year's Kin Pace Final from Clinton Raceway. It's been a pleasure joining you this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next time on COSA-TV.
COSA, the Central Ontario Standardbred Association, proudly serving Ontario horse people with integrity and accountability. Collaborative, supportive,
helping to ensure a vibrant harness racing industry. Lifetime membership is free, and there are many benefits. Become a new member today. COSA, representing the interests of horse people racing at Ontario racetracks. To find out more, visit COSAonline.com.